Hey travelers, Mag here, coming at you from Kagoshima, the southwest prefecture on Japan's main island of Kyushu. Now, Kagoshima is a lot different than the other prefectures we visited across Kyushu, as there are almost no geocaches here. There are only about a dozen spread across the entire prefecture. We're starting here in the Shiroyama Observatory, right above the city of Kagoshima. Down below us, we have a handful of geocaches to find, and beside that, there's not a whole lot. Instead, what we're going to be doing is touring our way through the city, as you know I love to do, and seeing a few of the museums and getting what we can done before the sun goes down on us. So let's get out there together and see what Kagoshima has in store for us today. Come on, let's go.
In the distance, we are treated to one of the best views in the city of the active volcano, Sakurajima. To reach this astounding viewpoint, you must ascend the slopes of Mount Shiroyama into Shiroyama Park. Fortunately, at an elevation of only 107 meters, it's not that high of an ascent to make. There are many walking trails all around the park, including, of course, the one that leads straight up to the observation deck.
Yep, they are really speaking my language up here on the Shiroyama Observatory. I couldn't have said it better myself. Hello, Geo World.
While I enjoyed this sign for its obvious novelty as a geocacher, what it actually refers to is the Sakurajima Kikuan Geopark that can be seen from the Shiroyama observation deck. The area that the city of Kagoshima now occupies owes the entirety of its existence to Sakurajima. Around 30,000 years ago, a huge eruption of the volcano occurred around the inner side of Kinko Bay. Volcanic ash covered the southern portion of Kyushu, forming the Shirasu tableland around 60 meters above sea level.
Admittedly, I took the easy way up to the Shiroyama Observatory. There are trails that lead all the way up here, and while they do look like a lot of fun, I have very limited sunlight to work with, so I chose to take the parking area, which is a short walk around to the top instead, so I can get down into the city and start exploring as quickly as possible. Definitely want to come back here though. It's another place on that very long list of places I want to revisit in Japan, so I can spend more time just enjoying one or two places instead of having to speed from one to the next.
From above at the Shiroyama Observatory, I descend into Kagoshima City, the capital city of Kagoshima Prefecture with a surprising population of well over 500,000 people. Why is that surprising, you might wonder? Well, in a city of this many people, I'm shocked to see only 3 geocache listings. That's it, only 3 here, so I might as well see if I can find them all.
I have to say, between the giant castle gate, the castle wall, and the moat, that it is safe to say we have found where Kagoshima Castle once stood.
And these signs are about the only evidence you're going to come across that a castle once stood here, as it is now all in ruins. Even the impressive structure of this gate, the Otomon Gate, is a reconstruction that was completed in 2020. The rest is left to the pages of history. In 1873, the main citadel and the main gate of the castle burned down. The second citadel followed shortly after in 1877 during the Satsuma Rebellion.
Heading down the road between the Shiroyama Observatory and our next target, there are 3 museums to check out, so I couldn't resist. I parked in the middle of the 3, and I'm moving down the middle line. The first one is the Ray-Mekon History Museum. Unfortunately, they don't allow any photos or filming inside. However, they still have a beautiful outer grounds that I want to show you before we head over to the next museum, and hopefully there we'll have a little bit better luck.
The Ray-Mekon Museum stands upon the ruins of Kagoshima Castle, better known as Surumaru Castle. This beautiful museum to behold was opened to the public in 1983 in commemoration of the centennial anniversary of the Meiji Restoration. The exhibits found inside, which I suppose must be seen in person, relate to the history and culture of Kagoshima Prefecture, as do the exhibits found around the exterior of the museum, including a statue of Tenshoun Atsuhime, also known as Atsuko. She was the wife of the 13th shogun of the Tokugawa shogunate, Tokugawa Isada. Born in Kagoshima in 1835, at 18 years old she would travel to Kokura, never to return to her home again. As the daughter of the head of the Shimazu family, she was to wed into the Tokugawa clan to ensure the succession. Though it did ensure the succession, as intended, her husband would die less than 2 years later. She spent her remaining years as a Buddhist nun, taking on the name Tenshoun. Seeing as how there are exactly 3 museums to be discovered along this stretch of road, and 3 geocaches to be discovered in the city of Kagoshima, I figure I might as well give each one of them a try. The way I see it, with the geocaches, the worst that can happen is I can't find them, and with the museums, the worst that can happen is I can't video inside. While the latter turned out to be a problem at our first stop, that would not be the case here at the second stop.
While I didn't have any luck at the first museum I tried, the Kagoshima Prefectural Museum allows video the whole way through. They have amazing displays in here, but not only that, Admission is free. This is a place you've got to see.
This natural history museum is intended to showcase the abundance of natural wonders to be found here in Kagoshima Prefecture. And with this zone stretching for 600 kilometers from north to south, there is quite a bit of variety in the biodiversity to be had. It stretches through 3 climate zones, each receiving abundant rainfall, and 2 biogeographic areas.
A lot like the museum we visited at Kumamoto, they have a fantastic display of the different bugs that live in the area. I love how they're arranged too, just phenomenal.
Kagoshima Prefecture contains a chain of 605 islands running north to south off of the main island of Kyushu. They were formed either through volcanic eruption or the elevation of coral reefs, seabed sediment, or rocks. The unique topography of each of these islands lends itself to the unique distribution of insects that reside there. Within just the Amami Islands live 80 different species of butterflies. 30 of those species were carried there from other places on the winds of monsoons and typhoons. At one point, many of these species lived together until the Amami region broke away to form the various islands in the chain. Geographically separated, those species evolved over time into subspecies. As often occurs with isolated islands, there have even been species that developed that are not found anywhere else in the world, including 2 rare species of beetles and 2 rare species of butterflies.
Live animals always beat the exhibit animals, hands down. This little turtle looks so happy to see me. You see that? He's jumping for joy.
In fact, all of the animals looked pretty happy to see me, lining themselves up at the front of the tanks to get a better look at the human on display before them.
Like my daughter, I just have a fascination with any kind of lizards, salamanders, geckos, any of those things. And these little guys are just adorable, don't you think? Hi, little guy. Hi, how you doing? Like spiders and lizards, I've also come to be a big fan of frogs. I kind of think pretty much anything that eats bugs is a friend in my book. You know, the enemy of my enemy and that sort of thing.
You can't really get to know Kagoshima unless you learn about Sakurajima, the most active volcano in Japan. It exists within a 25-kilometer wide caldera that formed 22,000 years ago as the result of a blowout and cave-in eruption. It formed as a vent of this caldera, first erupting in the year 963 and doing so intermittently since, most recently in 2024.
Now there are a lot of signs in here that are do not touch, right? Keep your hands off the glass or any of those displays. But there's also a lot of interactive displays too. This says Yukuri Akate. This means please slowly open, and you can view even more displays. All of these cabinets all have drawers just like this that we can pop open, dig even deeper below the Earth's surface.
In my tour through Kyushu, I've spent a lot of time moving from city to city, so it's kind of nice to be able to see the nature and animals that exist throughout the region, even if it's just here in this museum. Because let's be honest, no matter how far I like to get into the woods of the mountains, I will not be seen scuba diving. Not only are there very few geocaches to be found beneath the waves, though some do exist, I am also very acutely aware that man's place at the top of the food chain ends right at the shoreline. While I'm all about putting my toes into the sand, I will turn right around at where the waves crash and head on into the forest, even if it means facing the unknown there. As you can see for yourself though, there are not too many unknowns about the native species existing here on Kagoshima Prefecture. It is estimated there are over 3,400 species of native and exotic plants here, including 583 exotics, 199 hybrids, and 52 Agamospermi species.
For us geocachers, what better place to get to know where we're going to be searching for caches in Kagoshima than a museum like this, am I right?
And last, but certainly not least, in discussing the biodiversity of Kagoshima Prefecture, we have all the animals that live here. The first is easiest because there's only one species of monkey to be found anywhere in Japan. From the northern reaches of Hokkaido to the southern reaches of Kagoshima, if you see a monkey in Japan, you can rest assured it's the Japanese macaque. With so many of the other animals represented here though, the guessing game is not nearly so easy. In the insect world alone, there is thought to be more than 15,000 species. Crawling their way along on land and in the water, more than 1,000 species of snails. Maneuvering through the streams, ponds, lakes, rivers, and intercoastal areas, more than 200 species of fish. Flying through the skies and pecking their way across the ground, 419 species of birds. As the animals become landlocked though, they become significantly easier to identify as they are far fewer in numbers. By comparison, there are only 49 species of mammals, 48 species of reptiles, 26 species of amphibians, and, thank the geo gods, 0 species of carnivorous terror left over from the Jurassic period. Last up in our set of 3 museums is the Kagoshima City Museum of Art, opened to the public in 1985. From my starting place at the Sakurajima Observatory, this is the easiest of the 3 to spot at a glance, and one I was recommended by a local to come check out for myself. A short tour through will allow visitors to view a collection of works by local artists, as well as some famous Western painters too.
The Kagoshima Museum of Art. It is pretty spectacular in there. Unfortunately, like the first museum I tried to visit, there's no videos or pictures allowed. So 2 out of 3 where we got a nice tour of the outside, but nothing on the inside, and of course 1 museum that we got a phenomenal tour of the inside. 1 out of 3 isn't bad, especially considering geocaching is an outdoor game. So let's stay outdoors and go find some geocaches.
Just across the main road from the Kagoshima City Museum of Art, I finally get on my way toward the geocaches hidden here in the city with a stop into Chuo Park to kick things off. Okay, so it was slightly out of the way from a direct approach to the next geocache, but you know darn well when I see a beautiful park like this, I just can't resist stopping by to check it out. Perhaps it was the sound of the running water that attracted me, either from the waterfall or the small stream that circulates its way around the park. Or perhaps it was the sound of children, laughing and frolicking in the grass, promising a place to sit and relax for a spell. Whatever it is that lured me over here, because it certainly wasn't to hide, you've got to admit this is quite a specimen of a park. With all of the tents going up around the pavilion and the center area completely blocked off, I imagine they've got a festival coming up here very soon. I have every confidence that whatever's about to happen in the coming days, it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody involved.
The real problem with searching for a geocache in the woods isn't when it's hidden in the woods. That part's the easy part. The real problem is when it's hidden in plain sight. That took me way longer than it should have to find. And as you can see, it's clearly labeled geocache. There's no mistaking what this is supposed to be. If it were hidden, easy find. Out in the open, it's gonna be a while.
As with any other city in Japan, whenever I encounter a main intersection, I always choose to take the pedestrian-only option whenever it's available. The pathways that are designed for people and not vehicle always offer the most shops in the smallest area, ensuring that there's something to see every step along the way.
My trick to finding some of the best ramen around Japan has been to turn off the main streets and instead follow the small alleys like this. And this one, we've already got the hint we need because it even says Gourmet Street. Oh, I think this alley's our winner right here.
And while there was indeed a very good looking ramen shop down that alleyway, it did not open for another hour, and I was not about to sit around and wait. Instead, I continued following the pedestrian only path, leading into the G3 shopping area. Most people here were looking up at the many shops in the area, but I was looking down at the constellation maps leading from one end of the G3 to the other. I really enjoyed the depiction of so many constellations that they showed with real pictures embedded underneath the star maps. This definitely helps to quite literally connect the dots. I was so engrossed in the details, in fact, that I almost forgot I was geocaching. Almost.
There are 2 things I can really count on from the phone booths in Japan. Number 1, that they're actually going to work. That by itself is a miracle after traveling the whole United States. And number 2, it's usually a pretty good place to find a geocache. Yes.
3 attempted museum visits, coupled with 3 successful geocache finds, and then I find the sun setting down on my time here in Kagoshima. It came to an end just all too quickly.
And just like that, our tour of Kagoshima comes to an end with the setting sun. We may not have had much time here in the city, but we made the most of it. We started off at the Sakurajima Observatory and got a good look at the landscape below us, and then we got straight into it. We got to see a couple museums along the way, we got to find a couple geocaches, and in general, just have a good time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick tour of Kagoshima with me, and I hope you learned a little something along the way. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and I'll see you out on the trails.